Okay, now the class is being recorded. Again, imagine that we have a white canvas here, right? We wouldn't have anything there. First of all, this typical thing that I will do, which is the same that we are doing all the time, we are getting to the HTML tutorial, and I will get my basic code, copy, right, and paste. First of all, just because I'm not concerned about the web page right now, and then I'm going to say audio player. Then I will put play a sound, okay, play sound, and then this is my assignment, the assignment that you have to do. First of all, that's it. Second thing that I'm going to save it in web audio class of May 2, and then this is assignment result or .html. I had to do it. Okay, as simple as that. This is just a short explanation for the people that is getting behind. I know that many of you submit a proper assignment that is working, but we have to help the people that is having problems. If you have any kind of question, please raise your hand and I will try to go slower or explain whatever we're doing, right? So this should be fine. The second thing that we know that we're going to need is the script part, because we know that we are using the web audio API. Before that, let's go and add the audio tag, right? We know that HTML, and this is also another important thing that we have to understand, okay? We have to understand, and this is something that I explained to some people yesterday, that there are two different domains. In one domain, we have the HTML, okay, let's say 5. 5 is just a branding name for saying that you have more options than the regular HTML that was created in the 90s, okay? And HTML5 is just an addition of many libraries. The audio tag is part of the HTML5, okay? And then we have the territory of the Java programming in JavaScript, okay? We have to remember that, and this is actual a programming language, while this is not. This is just a representation of ideas, but you can code, you don't have variables, you don't have anything here, right? So first of all, and we can do a lot of things with the audio tag without using anything before that. And that is something that I didn't explain properly last class. So if we go to the audio tag of HTML, the audio tag of the HTML, right? We have to remember that we saw a bunch of things here. I'm just repeating what I was saying really fast last class. For example, this audio tag that we have here, right? The audio tag that we have here, okay, is something that I can copy and then I can paste to here. I'm just going to be using one audio tag, which is one MP3, okay? So I'm going to remove this, and then I will add it to my folder, because at this point, I need it in the same folder. So if I go here, I will copy one of my MP3 files. Let me see if this is an MP3 file or not. Or actually, I will grab one of the ones that you gave me during your assignments. So I think there is something, let me see, trial, okay? It's an MP3, okay, I will copy this trial and I will put it in the same directory than my class 03, okay? Trial MP3. That means that I can put here trial MP3, okay? If I do this, and very important, some people had problems, be careful with that. If I open this directly on a browser, okay? Be careful. Oh no, this is not what I want to open. This is what I want to show you, but okay, if I open that file, this one, okay? Be careful with this. If you see here, I can open the file and it's fine, but it's not saying localhost. I'm not going through my server. I'm just opening the file in the browser. But this is going to complain if you have something like file, blah, blah, blah. This is not an HTML protocol. So if you go to the here, maybe work, maybe doesn't. This case, it works. You are going to start to get complainings about locations of files. Be completely sure that you are accessing here, accessing this through the local host. Okay, that is important. Through the local host, whatever audio class assignment result, and then we have the plugin, right? That is the first step. Okay, so and you can do a lot of things with the audio directly. Okay, you can play it, stop it, and things like that. Some of you in the assignment did a pretty nice thing, which was now you have the script, okay, which is going to be in JavaScript, okay, and we need to connect the content of this audio tag from HTML, right? We have to connect it to the script domain. And some of you guys did it in many different ways, but one of you did it, right? Like this audio element, okay? Document query selector. So if I go here, right? And then I put it here. I have an audio element, document query selector, and then I will getting the first tag that has the audio, okay? The audio and the audio. You can use this technique if you know that you have only one audio. But if you have many tags with the same name, you cannot query by selector. You will need query by ID, for example. Okay, so this is one option. Another option would be query by ID in JavaScript. Okay, document query. Okay, it's here. Look at this. You can also get element by ID. And we have here an example. We have the head, okay? And we have the P with an ID. And in the JavaScript, you can query element by ID. So you can also say something like ID, okay? My ID is mi sonido, okay? And then you can use this in the other way by saying I'll got element by ID, and then you get the mi sonido. Okay, these two techniques are at this context, in this context, identical. You can get the element audio by the tag itself, or you can get the element by the ID, saying adding an ID here. Okay, does that make sense? I hope yes, otherwise raise your hand. We can go either way at this point, okay? We can go either way at this point, but
So,
what a, yes?
teacher, that could be useful, the get element by ID could be useful in the case that we want to add two audio files.
For example, well, yes. And obviously, if you want to, for example, change the colors of the things that are on the web page based on the music, okay? Maybe it's useful to do it by ID, okay? Because sometimes you can also get the, for example, the text that is happening in some location based on the music. Maybe you're running an audio analysis and you want to get information. So what you're going to change is the P, and then I have ID, and then this is my text, okay? For example, then you can get my label, okay? It's equal document element by ID, okay? Text, because you know that you are going to change something in the label, okay? You can change the content in the label, which is what is happening here. Element, style, color, this, okay? So if I change text of HTML with a button, how to change button text or link in JavaScript, or JavaScript changing elements. For example, if you want to change the text, you can only say, let's see if we can do it by label, okay? And then you say label, I think it's label dot text equal our change, okay? Let's go gradually and change if and check if this is working. You follow what I'm doing? Otherwise, just stop me if you get confused, okay? But
Teacher, I think there's more people waiting to
I
enter
don't
the class.
see anybody. I don't see in the waiting room. I don't see anybody in the waiting room. No, there is no people in the waiting room.
Okay.
Thanks for letting me know. Okay. So this is fine. Okay. If I refresh this, oh, this should be changing and is not changing, which means that our code is not right. How can we change the label of this? Yes?
Professor, you like zoom the image so we don't see the whole code?
Pardon me?
I think just zoom, like you made a zoom to your screen so we don't see the whole code. Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. So we just need to see, once that we get the PID text, the label, it's this element, right? So I want to change what is saying text. I want now to change it. So we need to find a way for changing the text, right? For example, the one that is, this is a function when you press the button, okay? Oh, actually we can now add a button, okay? Why are we gonna add a couple of buttons? Maybe because we're gonna use it for something else, okay? So somebody of you did already knew that you can do something like, in addition to the audio, I can add a button that says on click, and then this has a function, okay? Change color blue. But I can just say change, this is change text, and this is a function, okay? And then change text, okay? Once that we are on the script, okay, I can write a function that says change text, okay? And then I can just check first console. Actually, I want to see window alert. I think it's window alert button. Click it. Okay. If I do that, and then I refresh this one, look at that. Now I have a button that says button, click it, and I have a little window on my browser. That's another way to know if something is working properly. But it is working because when I press the button, a small window appears, right? So we know that the function is working. Any questions so far? We have a method saying to the button that when we press the button, we are gonna call the function change. But as you can see here, there is a lot of connection between the HTML domain and the JavaScript domain. Here we have the function. Here we have the button. And we are saying that when we press the button, we trigger this function, okay? That is one thing to know. Another way to do it would be we remove the button, okay? We add an ID to the button and we say ID my button, mi button, okay? We follow that, ID my button. And then instead of writing the function, okay, we first need to get the element from here. Now we are gonna say button element gonna be equal. So button element is the name inside the JavaScript domain for the, okay, button element is the name that we have for the object that is in the HTML. We have different names in different contexts, right? For example, I'm called Hugo. At tech, people says, call me professor or Hugo, right? In my house, my son called me the another way, and my father called me in another day. I'm the same person, but I have 3 different names, and my friends tell me in another way, right? They have different way of naming me. It's the same. In this context, we have a button. In this context, in order to make a reference to the HTML button, we say button element, and then we get my button that is here. In that case, now I can say button element, and I have a lot of typos, but as long as I keep the name, right, dot add a listener. And I guess you guys had something like event listener, okay? This way of nesting things is a little bit tricky because first we need to say add event listener, right? So we have add event listener, and then this is a function, which means that we have to open parentheses and close parentheses. However, this function has 2 input parameters. One thing will be inside, and the other thing is the second parameter. The first parameter is the type of function that you have on click, okay? And the second part, this is on click. How do you know? Well, we know because I'm just stealing from one of you guys that has this here, right? But in add event listener, what can you add to an event listener on the JavaScript territory? Well, we can check, let me see, I'm going to start to remove more materials here that we don't need. Don't forget about this one. Don't forget about this one. Don't forget, we need all of these ones. Oh, I think I can close this one. And I think I can close this one. Okay. So that means that the add event listener in JavaScript, we can go to add event listener, and you will see that we can tap, let's see if we will have here all the list. I have here, we don't have it here, but I can go to another, let's see if in this one we have the different kind of methods. Probably yes, I hope yes. Sorry for jumping, like this one, for example, mouse over, click, mouse out, etc. Right? So if you need to drag something, you need to, okay. These are the different kind of things that you can have on the window, at least on the window. It depends on what you have, right? But let's check, and then we have the element, we have the action, we have the click, and here we have to write a function, parentheses, and we have to write the function. Follow what I'm saying. This function at this point is doing nothing, but I will say, I don't know, window dot alert, okay, button, click it, okay. So if I do this and I go back to my browser and I go to my audio player and I refresh, this is not working, okay? For some reason, my button is not working. Yes, it's not working. So we have to go and check what's happening with our button. Can you help me to solve this mistake? We have an audio, which is called ID equal my button, okay? Then we are getting get element by ID, my button. This should be fine, okay? Let's do this. I will try console.log and I will print button element. If you have any kind of question, please raise your hand. I will say button element just to see what are we getting here. Okay, so I save, I refresh, and then I will remove this here. And as you can see, button, my button, okay, in the console of my browser, I print button, and I got button with the name my button, okay, which is here. And then I got a lot of information about the button, a lot of information about the button. All of this is information about the button, okay? Okay, that means that we are getting a proper button. If we would have done a typo, for example, and then I get confused and I don't type it properly, that means that I don't have an element called ID, calling my button. And if that is the case, and I refresh here, then I will get a add event listener in a null event, and then I will get a null. Can you see here? There is not an object in that case. My button, it's a object in this case. Okay, you follow that? Well, that means that the problem is not in the button element, add event listener on click. Did I type properly? Oh, it's click. It's not on click, right? That was my mistake. It's click. So that means that if I refresh and I press button, the button has been clicked. Okay, so can you see that there are many ways for doing this? It is like language. It is like Spanish or English. There are many ways for saying the same idea. Some ideas are more elegant if you say them in one way. Some are shorter, in case that you need to say the thing shorter. In case that you want to be very, very eloquent, I don't know how to say eloquente in English, but if you want to say that, you have another way for saying things, right? So as you can see right now, we create an action in the button in two different ways. One is adding the button action in JavaScript, and the other one was adding the action saying on click, right, equals to a function inside JavaScript. I hope that you understand what I'm saying. If not, I will assume, if I don't see any blue hand here, that everything is fine at the moment, right? Oops. I will assume that, okay? So I will assume now that we have a button, and then I will assume that we have an action, okay? Now, I have a document by, I also assume that you understand that you can connect between these two domains in different ways. This was by query, this was by ID, okay? And then what I wanted to do is that when I press the button, I change the label of the content of assignment, right? So I think that we have an example, a small example on the HTML. So button tutorial HTML, right? And if I do that, I think there is a button here, right? And then when I click the button, this one, there is another tutorial here that is more nice than this button. Oh, I think it's the first tutorial from the JavaScript. So if we have this, and then we have a function here, click me to display the date. Okay, let's check this one. Okay, when you press the button, okay, you change, look, you write something. So how does this work? Well, you are saying document element by ID inner HTML. Oh, okay, so it seems that we just have to call inner HTML in the object, okay? How that you say, so in addition to open this, I will say label dot inner HTML, and then I will type text has changed. Okay, so one more time, what are we doing here? We have the JavaScript domain, we are getting the audio element, we are getting the audio element in another way, so that means that we have to decide which one are we going to use. What about if we take the second option, audio element, we have the label, we are getting the object label, right? We are getting the object button. We were printing something, which we don't need it anymore. We are adding an action to the button, right? The button is creating the window, and then it's changing the content of the label. So let's see if this is working. So if I go here and then I refresh, hopefully you can see text has changed. That means that the button is working. Is people connecting? Yes. Everybody fine? Yes. You follow that. Any question at this point? If there's any kind of question at this point, let me know. This is just a refreshment or a re-explanation of some of the basic concepts that we've been working with, right? Do we have something in the chat? Yes, people in the chat saying, teacher, can you let go Oscar? Sinusoidal approve. I'm sorry, I think there are more people in the waiting room. Oh, where is more people in the waiting room? I don't find.
Oh no, that was a while ago. Don't worry.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I apologize. Okay. Oh, okay. So yes, because I got focused on the screen, I don't see the chat, and I sometimes don't see you white hand. So just talk, just say professor, and then I start with it. Okay, but at this point, I think everything is fine, right? At this point, this should be understandable. This should be fine. And then, but what I want you to show you is that without having any kind of audio source, we can actually do some stuff in the audio element. For example, some of you guys did an assignment where the sound was working, where the sound was jumping. I don't remember who did it, but it wrote a small piece of code that makes the audio jumping to another section. It would be nice if we can find it. Could you help me, guys? Who did the assignment where the audio was jumping?
I think it was me.
Okay, could you tell me, could you remember me what you did? It was audio element what?
Well, it was using the, well, in this case, it would be using the audio, the normal audio parameter, because it interacts with the version of HTML of the audio. And it was audio.current_time equals plus the value of the...
Oh, current time. Current
Yes.
time equals what?
I think it was equals plus.
Oh,
so
okay.
it could
Equal.
add the time that you
something
have
like
on
this.
your function.
Let's check if this is what we were talking about, okay? I want you to see, let me see how big is my file, my audio file here, because I don't know, let me go back to my parent directory, let me go to the class of today, let me save my file, and then let's go to assignment result. I will play. Yes, it's working. Okay, so I will remove this window because the window is make me, okay, I will comment this window. I will also comment this text for now. These are just examples. And what I want you to see is that now we can even change the audio element. It's very important that you understand that the audio element, it's the name that we have from the audio material that we have here, right? And then the audio element that we have here, which is, it has elements. For example, it has current time. So we are saying the value that you have plus equal. We should remember that this is the same that's saying it's equal to audio element plus 10, okay? This is just a shortcut. It's just a shortcut for saying whatever value you have, add 10, okay? And you actually changing the volume, the position. Can you change the volume directly without using the web audio API? Yes, you can change also the web audio API, okay? Let's add, for example, a slider, okay? A slider is, whoa, how can you add a slider? Let's say that we don't remember how to add a slider. A slider on HTML5, okay? We can go, no, this is not what I want. You can get very fancy about a slider, right? And I think it's input range slider. It's an input range in HTML5. So if we go to here, we're gonna end up watching that we have a small slider in JavaScript, or in HTML5, sorry. And what do we have? Well, it seems that we have a input range with a volume, okay. The other is just a form, but we are not filling a form. So can we add a slider? So one more time, we have this, the body, we have the audio. This is part of the audio. We have a button, okay. And this button is just for jumping, okay, for jumping 10 seconds. And then we have an input, which is of type range with an ID volume. Now you understand why do you have an ID, right? It cannot have the ID text. It cannot have the same ID. It has to have a different name. It has a volume. It has a minimum of 0, and it has a maximum of, let's say, 100. If everything is fine, yes?
What's the difference between an ID and a name?
Where, oh, I think name is what it's gonna say in the slider, okay?
Okay, thanks.
Name is just for, name is a particular property for input in the same way as minimum and maximum. You cannot say minimum to a button, right? It seems, I think there is no logic about saying minimum equal 5 in the context of a button. Okay? So the kind of type, the elements that you can add depends on the kind of object that you have. So there is no logic on this, and the same, the name from this volume. So minimum, maximum, and then the ID. Let's check that everything is working fine here. And then we have, yes, no mistake here, right? In the left side, in the console part. So we have jumping, and it seems that this is, the slider is working properly. At least we have the slider here, right? But the slider is doing nothing, right? The slider is doing nothing. Can we add something to the slider? Well, yes. First of all, we need to get a variable, right, for the slider. So I'm going to call it my slider. It's going to be equal. And could anybody tell me how can I get that reference to my object?
Document get element by ID.
Exactly. Dot element by ID, and then what? Which ID?
Ball. Yeah, it's ball, right?
It's
ID
called,
ball.
yeah, ball, right? Now, anybody else can tell me what do we need to add in order to have an action in that slider?
A function?
A function, but the function needs to be
An event listener.
Event listener.
add event listener. And what is the event listener that we need to add in the slider?
Change, I think.
Input.
Okay. Change or input?
I used change.
Okay, so we have change, and then we have the function, right? However, this function, look the function on the button. It has nothing, right? it has nothing. However, in this case, we need the value. The value, or we can call it value, or we can call it mi entrada. That's up to you, okay? You can call it whatever you want. And if that is the case, we have the function here. Let's check that this is working. Console.log mi entrada. So that's a logic. This value, it's the object, or sorry, is the variable where we are going to be putting the values of the slider. So if everything is fine, no complaints, just a warning because we do not have a proper HTML completely, and we move it. Oh, it's not working. Okay, something is wrong in our parameter. How can we debug this? Well, the first thing that I will do is console.log.mySlider, just to check and to see if.
Oh, I see why you use a button element instead of my slider dot.
Oh, nice, good. Thank you very much. We have a slider, and then we move it. No, still not working. Okay. Oh yeah, it works, but it worked when I move it. When I just remove it.
You miss like the step of the slider?
No, I don't think it's the step. I think it's that it's not change. Change happens when you move the slider. We want.
Maybe you need to refresh the page.
I think it's already refreshed, but look how when I move it, I want to remove my finger from my mouse, and then the action is triggered. I will move the slider from my finger, 1, 2, 3, and the slider triggers as action.
You want that in real time?
Yes. And I think it's just because it's not change.
It's input, teacher.
It's input. Okay, let's check input, refresh, and then it's refreshing on real time while I'm moving it. Okay. Okay, that sounds good. That means that I don't need to debug it, and then I don't need to print this anymore. I do have a value here that is going between 0 and 100, right? That means that now I can use it for changing the volume of my audio element. Okay, I can say audio element dot, and then probably, because I don't remember, I just need to say HTML audio volume. Okay, and then audio volume in here, right? Get element, and then it seems that we just have it like volume equals something. Let's cross our fingers and check if it's as simple as that. Volume, it's equal to my entrada. However, there is this tiny mistake here. Who can tell me what is the problem with the code that we have at this moment in terms of range?
You need to divide it by 100, I think.
Exactly, because we are getting values that it's going from 0 to 100, okay? Because we cannot have decimal numbers on the sliders. I think so. And then the simple thing is to divide over 100. However, be careful, because if my entrada is an integer and this is an integer, we're gonna get integer as divisions. So probably we need to just add 0.2 for casting. So let's check it and give it a try. Or refresh. Okay, put in play. No, it didn't work and we had a mistake. We caught error failed to set volume property on change. The provided double value is not finite. Okay. It didn't work. Audio element, this was current time, and this was volume.
I think that it's gain, right, instead of volume?
No, because gain is for the audio web audio API. I'm just going, and to be honest, probably the previous class should have been audio with HTML and then audio with the web audio API. But at this point we're mixing both things. I think the problem could be mi entrada. When I print my entrada, okay, if you see my entrada, I'm gonna comment this, okay, and then I'm gonna type console.log and the entrada, okay, I will go here, I will refresh, I will go to the assignment, and then I will move the slider. Look what I'm getting. I'm getting a bunch of elements here, right? But as you can see, you are getting when was it pressed, who pressed it, and so on, but not the actual value, okay, of the slider. That means that there is a problem here, okay? Target, right? We're getting a lot of information, the timestamp, the input, the source, the path, but we're not getting the real value here. So this is actually the slider, but not the value, okay?
And what about if we put mi entrada.value?
Exactly, that's what I'm gonna do, value here, and check one more time, refresh. It's undefined, so it's not value, okay? How can we get the value? Anybody that can help with this? We already did this last class. Any idea?
Teacher, I use current target dot value.
Current target dot value?
Yep.
Okay, let's check then my entrada current target.
Well, not in the console, in the audio element dot volume, it's equal to the mi entrada dot current target dot value, split it over 100.
Could you repeat? Oh yeah, but I just want to feel first. I just want to, is it my entrada current target dot value?
Yep.
Okay, let's check that this is working before moving on to the actual volume. Okay, that is working, right? If I move it, I have the value here. Okay, so we were forgetting the current target. If that is the case, probably now I can say current value over here, right? So if I refresh and then I press play, it is working. Although we got a little warning here, I just want to see what's happening here. Oops. Okay, just the favicon. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so as you can see, you have a lot of things that you can do without any web audio API reference, right? So we have the audio, we can trigger the audio, we can jump, go back and forth in the audio. Actually, we can loop it probably, and we have to do all of these things, right? So you're saying, okay, well, so why do we want to do all these messy web audio things that we were working with, okay? Because, for example, we cannot add panning, we cannot add analyzers, we cannot add effects, we cannot add all the more complex professional audio things. This is just if you want to create a very basic web page and you want to hear the sounds. You cannot synchronize audios, you cannot play them slow, you cannot change the range, you cannot analyze it and get the chords. So that is very important for you to understand. These are two different techniques for working with, okay? But so far so good, right? So this assignment result is already a working situation where you have an audio, you can play the audio, and so on. And the slider is working. Any questions so far? Any question or comment so far? No?
No.
Okay, so I'm gonna copy this and save as, and I'm gonna change it to assignment, okay? As assignment result with the web audio API.html, okay? Now, we are gonna include the web audio API now, okay? Why? Because now we want to apply all the effects that we were talking about, okay? So the first thing that we need to do is that one that we have these, we have the button, and should we keep the jumping? For now, I'm gonna keep the jumping, just for now, just for playing, just for playing, okay? Not for playing music, but for the pleasure of doing things. Okay, so what am I gonna do is I'm gonna add another, okay, now we have the volume. I'm gonna add another button, okay? I'm gonna add another button, which is gonna be my player or my player. And this one will be used for playing, okay? This will be used for play. Be careful with what I'm doing here. Do you see this tag here that we have here that says controls inside the object audio? That allows us, that gives us all this control that we have here. The possibility to download it, the possibility to jump, right? The possibility to change the volume, right? And the possibility to start the sound. If we remove the control, we are gonna, oh, because I'm on assignment 2. I'm going back then to refresh to this one, okay? We don't have that visualization of the audio anymore. That doesn't mean that we don't have the audio. That just means that we don't have the visualization of the audio. But now we have a button that does nothing. So in the same way, I will add the button here, which is the, okay, yeah, the button element, and then the bottom player, right? The bottom player, it's gonna be equal to same situation. We're gonna get it by ID or by query or by whatever. And this is called, yes? Pardon me?
You're missing an N. You write M bottom.
Oh, on bottom player?
Yeah.
Teacher, can you scroll down the code to the start?
Here?
Like to the, yes, thanks.
Okay. So we're just building little by little, okay? So we have the audio, we have 2 buttons. Okay, you're saying here, bottom.
No, in the player. There.
Okay, well, actually it doesn't matter because this is just a variable, and as long as I keep it fine, right? It's fine. But okay, so maybe I will try to be organized in the sense that this is just for the first button, okay? This is for the slider. The order doesn't matter, right? And then I will do it in my next bottom player, okay? And this is my player. You follow what I'm doing? Yes? Hope you are doing it. Okay, I will copy, I'm just gonna copy and overlay because I'm lazy and I know that my second button player, we have this event and then it was another function. However, this function will be different, okay? Why? Because I'm gonna turn on my web, my entire audio engine, blah, 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 okay? So the first thing that I need to go is just go and steal from somebody else the audio context, okay? Why? Because we know that this are the logics that we need to do. Be careful. I'm trying to explain everything again, but now with all the experience that you have, and now with all the mistakes that I saw in the assignments, or not the mistakes, but the doubts that you could have. So this is, we already know what are we doing here, but be careful. If we create these variables here, right, they just exist here. A little bit of explanation about scope, okay? Okay, code has different domains. Let's say that we have a function. This is what is happening in my function 1. But my function has a variable that is called a. Okay? Then I have my code, which is my code. Okay? And I have a variable here that is called a z. Okay? A variable that is called c. Okay? If inside this function I say c equal to something, it's fine, because the scope of c, because c was defined to be visible in all the code. And then I have another function 2 with a variable c. Okay? If inside function 2 I call c, it's fine. If inside function 1 I call c, it's fine. But what would happen if I try to say a something? It's gonna tell me that there is no a. And you can say, why? But I already say variable a. Yes, but it was in function 1. What does that mean? That you have to think the code as an onion, right? Whatever you define in a bigger scope, for example, a, that means that you can use a here, and a here. If you define a variable b here, you can use it here, b, and b, but you cannot use it outside. If you define c here, you can use it here and here, but not in the outside layers. And if you define something d, you can use it here, but not in the outside. Does that make sense? Am I explaining properly with this crappy drawing? For example, mi entrada, this one, it's a variable that can be used in this context. But if I try to do something like here, mi entrada equals blah, 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 or I try to say console log console.log mi entrada, that's gonna complain, because this scope happens to be only inside this context between these brackets that we have here, right? So if I define the audio context here, the audio context will exist only inside button, which probably is not what we want, okay? So that's something that we have to take in by grant, okay? That's very important. So the audio context probably should be defined in the general outside first global scope. Does that make sense? So I'm gonna define the audio context. Actually, in some of the examples that you have, people define it as constant, so you won't be able to change it anymore. In our case, it's the same, okay? Now that we have it there, we can say that the audio context is gonna be equal to whatever we have here, which is, where are you? I'm stealing one of you guys. Oh, the new audio context. Whoops. Okay. Does that make sense? Why? And then you could ask, but why are you defining this as local and this as global? Well, because this one, I just need to make a reference inside here, but once that I call the function, this is the one that should be global. Does that make sense? Questions with this little section? No?
No.
Okay, so once that we have that, I will go also and steal somebody of code, because there is a section that is very nice created, which is this one. If there is no audio context, I will start it. Okay. I will go here and I will say, okay, when I press the button, this should happen only once, right? Once that I press it, I start the audio engine. So if audio context. What does this mean? Anybody that could explain us this little section that is here?
It's a conditional, right?
This is a, yes, this is a conditional.
If audio context hasn't on yet, then will initialize the audio context, right?
Yes, but not yet. Yes, that's true. But audio context exists because it's a global variable, right? The variable audio context. If you define a variable, but you don't do anything with it, so I'm gonna comment this for now. I just want you to see something. I will create the variable audio context. Is that okay? And each time that I press the button play, I will console.log, I will console whatever is the variable audio context, okay? I will press play, and look, it's undefined. Play, it's undefined, okay? That means that this variable, audio context, is undefined. So if I say, the first time that I run the code, audio context will be undefined, okay? And if you say, if audio context is undefined, okay, which probably is the same that saying the negation of audio context is false, okay? That means that I need to turn it on. That means that I need to turn it on, okay?
With init.
With this context, okay? Just when audio context is void. So look what is happening here. I refresh, and then I will press the play button, and it's undefined the first time. But now, theoretically, because it was false, because undefined is treated as false, by the way. That means that now, the second time that I press it, oh, it's still undefined. That's not good, okay? Because theoretically, this audio context, the second time that I press it, should be properly connected, okay? If audio context, init audio context, right? But this init audio context is just a function that is saying audio context is equal to audio context. So I'm doing something wrong in this situation, right? Can you help me to recognize the problem? I don't see the problem here. Audio context, audio CTX. We have a global variable here, which is audio context. This should be fine, okay? Anybody with an idea about why are we not turning on the audio context?
Don't we have to write like the init?
Oh, no, because they decide to write it in another function, right?
Oh.
Init audio system, they decide to put it, but we decide to have it here together. Audio context. If negation of audio context, then let's check something about this variable. Maybe this audio context should be also global. The variable audio context is this one. Then audio context is going to be equal to window audio context, window web audio context. And then we are saying that the audio context is equal to new audio context. And at this point, audio context should have something. So I save it, I refresh, I press play, undefined, oh, voila. And the second time, we do have an audio engine here. So I hope that you can see it, because some of the things that I'm explaining happens over time. So maybe it was just that I didn't refresh. Let me check that. What I was doing is I'm saving. Did it save? Yes. I'm refreshing. And then first time, second time. Yeah. My apologize. This was not the problem. Okay. The problem was that I didn't refresh I didn't save it. Okay. So as far as I can see, I can do this. Okay. So at this point, I have an audio context. Because I have an audio context, this will happen just the first time. Just the first time, because the second time we will have an audio context, right? Any other questions so far in this code? No? Are you sure? Are you sure? No? Should I continue?
No. Well, I'm just a little bit confused. Why do you have like two variables? Like the first is audio context, and then you have like a new one that it's called audio CTX.
Okay, I will explain that in a second, but I just got an email from is everybody here? Is everybody connected? Yes. Theoretically, you should have your cameras on during the class, something that people ask me to do. No people, but servicios escolares ask me to do. I just want to be sure that you are not sleeping and anything. Is everybody fine? Yes, good, good, yes, good. Everybody paying attention, good. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Teacher, I have trouble with my network.
Okay, don't worry about that.
Yeah, the same with my camera.
Okay.
I don't know, it didn't recognize it.
Okay, good. Everybody, raise your hand. Excellent. Good. So I will continue. You can turn it off now because the bandwidth could be big, and so I appreciate it. Okay. Oops. Okay, now, why do we have two? Okay, this is just a temporally variable, okay? Okay, this is just a temporal variable. Do you remember what we mentioned the other day about saying if it's Firefox or Chrome, and if it's Internet Explorer, they have different names?
Yeah, I remember.
Saying, I don't care if it's this one or this one, that the one that gives me a real value will be called audio context, okay? And then because audio context, it's a global variable already defined, then you can call the function audio context. It will give you the actual audio engine, and you can put it in any name. My sonidero, okay? For example, okay? This one is one that you cannot change because some variables, by the way, they already exist. For example, document, it's something that we didn't define, right? But JavaScript already decided that document will be your HTML page, okay? And the same happened with, for example, console. We didn't define console, and it's a variable actually, but they decide to put it. It's in the same way that the S from Super Collider, do you remember that S was already a server? Well, the same happened here. Audio context is already an audio engine, but you can attach the proper one.
So it's just for not overlap the audio context current name, right?
Actually, it's for, okay, audio context is already defined, right?
Okay.
But actually, if you do this, yeah, I mean, actually, if I do not, if I comment this line, this will still working. Okay, play. It's already working, okay? It's already working. The big problem was that this is just a hack. This is just ¿cómo se dice? Amendo, un parche that you have to do in order to be sure that the Internet Explorer works, because these guys didn't decide to call it audio context, but window web audio context. Okay?
Okay, teacher. Thank you.
Okay.
Teacher, I just have
Yes.
one doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Why the first time you press the button doesn't react anything, and why you press twice or the second time it's send you, like in the console, send you a response or something?
Oh, because of the place where we have the console log. Okay, because we are trying to see what the audio context variable contains, right? The first time that I press the button, the first thing that happens is line 38, and I wanted to show you only that on the first time there is nothing in audio context. It's undefined, the variable, right? But as soon as the button is pressed, right, you get a context. So the second time that you press the button, line 38 will give you the audio. Actually, look what is happening here. I'm gonna do it twice. So you can see that it's not a problem of how many times you press the button, but it was just a representation of the information. So look, I will press it. So you have nothing. And now you have an audio just with one click, because I wanted to show you that you have nothing, that then you load it, and then you have the audio in one shot. I don't know if that explained the situation.
Yeah, I got it. Just one another, the exclamation mark inside the conditional if, what
Yes.
does that mean?
It means the opposite of. If something is true, the negation is false. If something is false, the negation is true.
It's like a not.
It's like the not. Okay.
Thank you.
So
Okay,
because audio context was undefined, okay, is that okay? The negation of undefined, or undefined is treated as false. The negation of false is true. So if true, then this will happen. Now that you have audio context, you have a variable with something. The negation of something is undefined. That means that now we are not going to do it. Okay? I don't know if I'm explaining properly or not.
Yeah, I got it. Thanks.
Okay, so now this is working, and then we have the audio engine working. Is that okay? Good. Now that we have an audio context, we can start to connect many things. The first of all is that we have the button play, right? Or where are we starting our audio? Well, what about this audio element? Okay. And I think we can say play. Is that okay? If I refresh this and I say play, it's playing. Okay. But it's playing, however, it's playing because we say to the audio to play, but we are still not using the audio context, okay? We are still not using the audio context, okay? That's important to understand. Now, how can we get the connection between the audio HTML5 and the web audio API? Well, create media element, okay? The create media element source allows us to have a connection, okay? Whoops. So what we want to do now is that, in addition, the audio element is already here, and then the audio element is starting, okay? But we can set the track, but be careful. This one we also wanna leave it as a global variable because we want to modify it in other places. You can call it my track or my audio, or you can call it my source or my sound source or whatever. Is that okay? My track is gonna be equal to, from audio context, please give me the information that is coming from the audio element, okay? And this is a way for connecting to this material. Is that okay? Does that make sense? Okay? I hope that makes sense. Now we can add another thing, for example, the variable panning. I also gonna create a panning, okay? And then I will create, okay, we need to connect, right? Track dot connect to audio context dot, what's the name? Destination, source destination. Oh, destination, just like that. Okay. Does that make sense? Now I'm playing the sound and then I'm getting that material and I'm connecting that signal to my speakers. Does that make sense? If I do that and I refresh and I go to the with the web audio API, working. Okay. Yes, does that make sense? Okay. Now, what happens if I want to change the panning? Well, I will need a panning that I already have as a global variable, and then the panning, you can say that the panning is going to be equal to, and we have to get the create panning. How can we create the panning? Well, you guys know it because you did the assignment, but I don't. So panning with audio API, and then stereo panner node is this one. And it seems, if I go to an example, that you can just get it by create a stereo panner, right? Audio context, create a stereo panner. Okay, audio context, create a stereo panner, right? And then that means that, be careful. Now my track is not connected to my destinations, but my track is connected to the panning, okay? And then my panning is connected to the audio context destination, okay? This should be working, and I'm working very gradually to check that everything is working. This is still working, no mistakes in my console, which is fine. And then let's give it a try to change the panning. Can we change the panning? Yes. How can we change the panning? Well, the panning is changed by saying pan node, pan set value at time, audio context, pan control value, audio context, current time. Set value, I think we can just do it by set value, or actually we can do it by pan as far as I remember, but please let me know if I'm making a mistake. So they call it pan node, but I will call it panning. Pan, it's equal to, let's check if this is working, -5, okay? So if I go here and I play it, I have an error. No, it didn't work. Anybody can help me with that? Why is my panning not working? Oh, because it's track pan value, okay? It's as simple as this. Track pan, the value should be, you follow me, not sleeping, right? Not sleeping.
No, teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Okay, and now I don't know if you get it or not, because because probably the streaming from Zoom is a mono signal, but now I'm just listening it on my left speaker. That means that the panning is working, okay? That the panning is working, okay? Now, but I want to be able to change the panning by hand. So in the same way that I have this input, okay, I could type another panning, which is gonna be now, oh, actually, we were not using the volume at all, right? Were we using the volume? Yes, we were using the volume, but directly on the volume thing. This could be interesting. I'm gonna modify this, okay? Be careful because I'm gonna modify this. I'm not gonna change the volume from my audio in HTML, but I'm gonna modify it with another variable volume node, okay? With a node, a volume node. So in the same way that I create my panning, okay, I also will create my volume node. It's gonna be equal to an audio context dot create, could you help create
Gain,
gain?
teacher.
Thank you very much. Create gain, right? And then be careful because my track is connected to the panning, and then my panning is connected to the volume node, okay? And my volume node, it's connected to this. So basically what I'm doing is connecting different, this was a mistake in some of you guys, because you have the signal should be connected to the volume or the panning, right? And the panning should be connected, whoops, to the volume, and the volume should be connected to the speakers, okay? Or the other way around, you can connect first the volume and then the panning. But what you cannot do, because could be conflict, is that your signal is connected to a panning and to a volume, and both are connected to the speaker, okay? This will generate a problem because you cannot connect two things at the same object, okay? Unless you have a mixer. But this thing should be working. So we have a panning, a track connected to the panning, a panning connected to the volume connected to the speakers. And then the volume gain value is the one that we will be changing here. So be careful because now instead of saying audio element volume, I will be changing the volume gain value, okay? And if this is fine, and if this is fine, and then I go here, I play, and the volume is working. But now with more control, because now we are working directly on. And then if that is the case, we just need to add another slider, okay? Be careful with the ranges of your values because these should be go between 100 and 0 and 100, and the one that is saying panning, okay, which I will call it also panning, and actually I will remove the name. Somebody of you ask, why do we have a name? Let's see what happens if I remove name. And then I have a panning, which is minimum minus 100, okay? Minus 100. Minus 100, and the maximum is 100. Could you tell me how can I start it at the center? I forget what is the parameter that you have to put.
Value.
Value.
Okay, and then the value it's equal to 0. Okay, if that is the case, and I refresh, I should have two different, right? Okay, that's good. And then this one, we should start it in value of 100, right? Because the volume is starting at gain 1. Well, no, actually not. Let's do this. The volume will start at 0, and then the volume node, okay, will start gain dot value. It's going to start at 0.5 as a starting point, okay? So we have the, yeah, these are the sections of the connections. So we have the starting audio play, the track connected to here, then the panning, then the volume, and then the panning should have a slider in the same way that the other slider, right? So if this is my slider get column by ID, I can grab all these lines, okay? Good, bye-bye. I'm just organizing my code. I can copy this section because I'm lazy. And then I need another variable, which is called my slider for panning, right? And my slider for panning is getting from the ID pan, and then the console should be the same. You remember, this is a variable mi entrada. This is also a variable muy entrada, but they are in a different context. But that makes no big deal. You remember we were talking about functions? If you have a context and you have a function with a variable a here, and you have a function with a variable a here, they are not the same object. In the same way that maybe Miguel from our class, well, not Miguel, but let's say Omar, okay? Omar from our class is another Omar from another class where there is also a person called Omar. This is one Omar, this is another Omar because they are in a different room, okay? But this is gonna be the pan, was it called pan node? No, it was called panning, right? So panning.pan value, current value over 100. Does that make sense? I guess yes. Is it over 100? I think yes, right? For the panning and for the volume. So I think we're done with the assignment.
It wouldn't be divided by 200. Divided by 200 because it goes between minus 100 and 100.
But we are not, okay, let me see. The panning, if we get a value that is going between, if we have something that is between minus 100, right? And 100, right? And we want to convert this to something that is going to minus 1 to 1, right? What happens if we have a minus 50? And then we divide it, minus 50, we divide it by 100. How much is this?
It's 0.005.
The
minus 0.005.
Minus 0.05. 0.005?
Oh yeah, 0.5. Sorry.
Minus point. I think it's this.
Okay.
No?
Yeah.
So it's fine. I think it's fine. In this context, it's fine. I think so. Now I'm confused, but first I can see it's fine. So I play volume and panning. And it's working fine. Okay? So we are almost set with the assignment. This should start in 0. Okay? This was the assignment. In the more succinct or small, I saw many of you did it in a more complex way, right? But this is like more clean. This should be a very clean way for doing the assignment, okay?
Are you gonna upload that?
Absolutely. I will upload this one, but I want to show you a couple of things. we haven't finished. Once that we are done with the assignment, we are going to make a pause of 10 minutes, and then we'll come back to the new topic, which is just adding a distortion. Okay. So, oh, actually, yes. There's just one mistake here. If I run this guy, okay, and I play it, and I press play again, I get a mistake says create media element source already connected previously different and media element source. Okay. Okay, and we don't have a stop button, by the way. It would be nice if we can add play or a stop, right? So when we start, where are we starting the play? Okay, here we are starting the play, right? But all these connections that are here, right, shouldn't be starting each time that I press the button. They should be started only one on each browser session, right? So this is a mistake, probably. Then I will copy that to here, okay? I will copy that to here. Where is this finishing? I think it's finishing here, right? Yes, that's it. And then the audio play should be starting here. You follow that, okay? So if I refresh this and I go here, still working, and it's fine. Now it's not stopping. It would be nice if I can play or stop it, right? Last thing before I promise is 9:14. Thanks for your time. I really appreciate your time. There is no new information in this session, right? There is just revision. How can you say that? Yes, we are reviewing our materials. So one little detail. Are you still there, buddies? Yes, everything fine?
Here.
Are you not bored at all?
Yes.
Are you sure?
No.
Not bored at all? Promise? Yes,
No,
everybody?
we are fine.
Okay. Are you fine?
Yeah, everything. All right,
Everything's
teacher.
Good.
Okay.
Yeah, I had the same doubt and problem. I wasn't able to connect the different parts of the code, but with this, I think now I'm able to do that.
Okay. Now let's just make one little detail. I'm going to create another variable, which is going to be of kind Boolean. I will call it is playing. Okay. Playing, and it's going to start at the beginning. It's not playing, right? Which means that is false. It's playing? No, at the beginning it's not playing. Okay. And then each time that I press the ball, no, the panning, this button, each time that I press the button, okay, I will check if it's not playing or if it's playing. First of all, if there is no audio context, I will do all my process. But what I will do here is that if it's playing, okay, if it's playing, what's it called? It's playing. Yes. If it's playing is true, okay, that means that it is actually playing. Then I will, is it called pause? I think it's called pause. Not quite sure. Okay. Is
Yes,
that
pause.
okay? And then I will put, is it playing? No, it's false. Otherwise, what does that mean? Otherwise, if it's not playing, right? If it's not playing, I will play it, and then I will say that it's playing, it's equal to true, okay? In that way, I can have the same button for playing, pausing, and continue. Playing, pausing, and panning, okay? We could change also the name of the play stop. That's just more detail, but for now, instead of starting playing, I will play. Where is the text? Where is my text? Play, play, and stop. Okay? And then this is the same. Now, it is 9:18. I will upload this material to my, I will connect, okay? I will upload this, this file. I will upload it to, I will upload both versions, okay, of the material to our class, which is, do you remember web audio? Okay, class number 9, web audio. I'm gonna copy the folder from class. You should have it now on my server. Okay, it's uploading. Class 10. Oh, give me just 1 second. Okay, that's it. Okay. So we're gonna do 2 things that I want to show you. The first one is that, could you please add a distortion to this code? Assignment REST WAP. Please, on your own, add an assignment, add a distortion to this code. So you have to go to the page, download it. You could say, oh, how can I download it? Well, you can go to the browser, right? Oh, well, and then you can go to the Ajolote Web Audio API. Now we are on the server, a live server, and then you can go to class 10 and you can right click and you can say guardar enlace como, okay? And then if you do that, why is not telling me? Oh, it's happening. It was just the stuff. Okay, so could you please go and do that? Okay, and then add a distortion. That's an assignment. Okay, I know that you can get, but it's a nice thing that you can do. It is 9:20. I will see you here at 9:50. 9:50 with the distortion. Okay. Oh, 9:50, no, 9:45. 9:45 with the distortion, please. Is that okay?
Okay, teacher. Thank you.
See you,
Yes.
see you. You understand what you have to do, right?
Yes.
Okay, you can change the audio if you want to, and you have to add the distortion, please. Okay? Let me pause the recording. Recording again. I'm recording, I'm sharing the screen, and then I'm sharing the first part on full preview, which I think is this one. Share. Yes. Can you see the screen? I guess yes, right?
Yes.
Can you see the screen with the web page? Is it recording? Yes. Can you see me? Yes. Hello. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so let's go back. First of all, could you tell me briefly in the chat how you did? 100% if you finish, 0% if you didn't do anything in the chat, 50% if you managed to do something, 60% if it's sounding something, 80% if the distortion is clear, and so on. Just type in the chat. I just want to see how are you doing. 50, 60, 50, good, excellent. 50, 60, 100, 65, 40, 45, 50, 40, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There are another 10 guys that has to reply something. Hello, come on, 40, 50s, 40s. Okay, that's good. Okay, almost, teacher. Okay, almost in like halfway there. That means 50. Okay. New. Okay. Okay. Well, let's advance together. Imagine, because most of the time you will be working alone, right? And most of the time you will be the person in charge of this, right? So, well, the first thing that we have to do is that we have to take advantage that we were born in the 21st century and that we have internet. Imagine to do this without internet. It was really complex to learn. But, okay, so let me close this. Let me close this one. Let me close this one. Let me tell, okay, the quad recording. Okay. Imagine that you say web audio API distortion, okay? And then we will go design a distortion effect, distortion curve, sigmoid words. Okay, this is explaining non-linearity, roll up yourself, not too exciting, my approach. Okay, this sounds like good, okay? You should read this, by the way, because it's explaining you something about the distortion effects that you can have about the tables. We won't talk about that a lot, but let's go directly to this one, okay? It turns out that there is a web shaper node that is used. The shaper node is a non-linear distorted that is used for distorting the signal. Okay, beside obvious distortion effects, it is often used to add a warm feeling to the signal. Sounds good? A web shaper node always has exactly one input and one output, okay? So probably we want to put it before the panning, right? So we have the constructor, we have the properties, we have a curve, and we'll have an oversample. Okay, sounds good. We're just going directly like if it were a dictionary. We come to an example, and it's a very basic example. Oh, sounds good. Okay. Okay, we can continue with here. It's not working on Internet Explorer, but it's working on Chrome, Edge, Firefox, Opera, and Safari. Android, Chrome, Firefox for Android, Opera for Android, Samsung, Intel. Wow. Okay, so it seems pretty much many of the browsers full compatibility after these versions. Okay, sounds good. And then we go to the example. It seems that we have a create web shaper distortion. So in the same way that we did, a very good logic would be first put it and check that it's working in a static way, and then check how to change it, right? Well, so you create a variable for the distortion, right? And then we know that the distortion will be equal to this element that we have here. We have the panning, the track, and the track. We say that because it's a mono signal, probably we want to do it before the panning. Okay, let's do it before the panning. And then we create the distortion. Distortion, it's equal to an audio context, right? So far, so good. Now, that means that we have to be aware about our connections. So the track will be connected to the distortion, and the distortion will be connected to the panning, right? And that's it. And the panning to the volume and the volume to the node. Sounds good. Now, it turns out, if we study this code, that line 22 and line 23 of the example seems that you have to make a distortion curve, and you are saying that the curve of the distortion it's equal to a, and then they decide to write a function. This is the function that they decide to write. Okay, you know what? Let's take this function. Let's take this function for now. Can we put it in any place? Yes and no. In JavaScript, you can do it, but it would be way much better if we do it in the general where we are defining everything. That means that we need to put it either here, outside our, outside our, if this is our bottom player, where is our bottom player finishing? Here, okay? That means that probably we want to do it outside the bottom player. So why don't we just put it at the beginning, okay? And let's study this function for a little bit because we're just stealing that from the example, right? And this could be a little bit messy, okay? We have a for, and then we have a curve. This function, okay, returns, if we check here, returns this function that we have here inside our JavaScript, returns a curve. We know, because that they say that, because the documentation says that make distortion is expecting this curve is a float 32 array. Somebody asked, what is a 32 array? Well, it turns to be an array, a collection of numbers of 32 bits, okay? Remember, the bits allow you to define how big can be the number, right? So I'm not gonna go into that into this moment, but basically it's an array of numbers. Okay, so if it's an array of numbers, and then this is the example about how to create it. Okay, it's creating a curve. I don't know what a curve, the way of the curve, right? I just know that we need to define it. Okay, how big is this curve? We need some way to know what is happening. Since we have math p over 100, so we know that we are making, intuitively, we are making some kind of wave. Now we have a 4, and we have a curve I. That means that we are populating our curve. How big is our curve? Well, our curve is of n samples. And how big is n samples? N samples, it's 44 and 100. That means a second, right? Okay, so why do we have these so many commas? Okay, well, these so many commas, it was just because in that way you can create different variables. Let's make it a little bit more clear for us. Okay, let's make it a little bit clear for us. And then let's break this line into small sections, which could be, the other thing is just a way of writing, okay? And then another variable I, and then a variable X, okay? Okay, sounds good. Then we have a for. Different than Java and Python and so on, you don't need to add the variable that you are gonna use. But we know that basically we're going from 0 to 44 and 1,000. Okay, and then it's adding a value first. Be careful with this. This plus plus I is different than I plus plus, because this is first adding and then putting the value. Okay, sounds good. Now, let's study what is it doing. It's adding a X, and then it's adding a value. First of all, let's study what is K. K, it's equal of type of amount, okay? So we're getting here 400. If it's a number, otherwise the amount it's equal to 50, okay? This is a shortcut. This way that we have here, this thing that we have here, is just a shortcut. As you don't know, triple equals, it's just to check the kind of. If we go to JavaScript, this is JavaScript, and then we operators. I think we saw them the other day in tutorial operators. We saw them here, and we will say that JavaScript, right? This is equal, this is non-equal, and this is of identity. Igualdad estricta, okay? Only if they have the same type. So basically we're saying if the type of K, okay, of the amount, sorry, if the K is equal of, if the type, this way of writing is just a shortcut for saying if K type amount equals number, then amount else 50. I hope that you follow what I'm saying, but basically what we are saying here is K, okay? Basically what we are saying here is saying K. And then we are saying if the type of K, the type of amount, okay, it's equal number, then, okay, then K, it's equal amount, okay? Otherwise, K, it's equal 50, okay? It's just, but you can see these guys, because they are professional coders, they did it really small, okay? Why are they doing this? Because in case that when you call the function, which we will do at some place, at some point in the web shaper, in the example, we will do distortion curve, okay? We will call distortion curve merge distortion. They just want to guarantee that if you put anything, if you don't put anything, right, it will be 50, okay? And that if you put something, that number will be preserved, okay? You understand what I'm trying to explain? It's just a shortcut, okay? It's just a shortcut. So should we care about that at this moment? You know what? We are not gonna care about that at this moment. And I will just gonna care about K equals amount. Bye-bye to everything that we did. Variable K equals amount. So the value that I send, it's equal to K, okay? Now, we are gonna go to a for, and we are gonna get an X value, right? And then we are gonna use these parameters that we have here, okay? Shall we try to see what does this means? Shall we try to see what is the graphic of this curve? Because it's a little bit complex to see in this way, and maybe it's very easy to visualize in some other technique, okay? Because we have the K, okay, X, it's equal to I times 2 over number of samples. That means 4,000, and this is 4,000. What does this mean? X is equal I times 2, 0 times 0, 0 over 0, 0 minus 1 minus 1. When X, okay, when I is 0, X is minus 1. Let's check what happened when I is 4, 4, and 1,000. 4, 4, and 1,000 times 2, 88,000. Over 4, 4, and 1,000 is 2. Minus 1 is 1. Interesting. This thing is going between minus 1 and 1. It seems that this thing is going between minus 1 and 1. Okay? And now let's study this. This is just adding 3 times K, which is 400, do you remember? Times X, which is a value that is going between minus 1 and 1, times 20, which is making it bigger, times degree, where degree is the math pi over 100. 3 point, so it's basically just converting to radians, degrees to radians, right? And then P times K, where K is 400 times the absolute of X. Wow, we don't know what's happening here, right? And it's very complex to visualize. Let's give it a break and we will come back with Super Collider. Do you remember that we have plot and we can see the curve? We will go back and we will check that. In a second, somebody is in the chat or something. I hear something. Is everybody here? Yes, okay. Okay, for now, I just keep it like this. For now, I wouldn't be moving this for 1 second. But I know that that is the function that was called in make distortion curve. Can I change this? Yes, I can say it as my distortion, okay? As mi distorsión, as long as this function has the name, because we create the function, okay? It's fine, okay? So, and then what else do we need to create? In the example, it was saying oversample. Okay, it seems that we need to say how oversample is the thing that we need to do. We just copy and paste for now. We will check later what happens with this, but we know that oversample is an enumerated value indicating if oversampling must be used. Oversampling is a technique for creating more samples before applying the distortion effect to the audio signal. It's just a sense of quality. Okay, sounds good. Is this working? Oh, okay. Well, if this is working, let's give it a try. Okay, so it's working. The volume is working. And then I stop. Okay, so congratulations, we have the distortion. However, some of you mentioned, okay, yeah, it's fine, but I want to change the level of the distortion, okay? So in order to change the level of the distortion, because the signal will be changed, we can either change the curve, but I don't know how long could it take to regenerate another curve. But let's give it a shot first and we check. Computers are fast, right? So maybe we can, what happens if we say as my distortion and we change this over, we change as my distortion and we change this for 10. Is this gonna change something? I save. Yes, change it. Okay. Is this gonna change if I type a 0? Yes, volume. So it's changed if I type 800. Yes, that means that this is the value, okay, of the distortion. However, the distortion requires a table. Well, let's add a new value. And this is just a repetition of what you have to do. This is distortion, okay? It's a range, and the range will go between 0, okay? And 400, okay? Starting in 0. Then we need to do what we had in all the other sliders, right? So I need another, my slider distortion. Yes.
Can I see how did you write the connection between the track and the distortion to the panning?
Absolutely. Track connected to distortion, distortion connected to panning, panning connected to volume, volume connected to speakers.
Okay, thank you.
And then we are on this slider distortion. What was the name of our distortion? Sorry, it's called this. So that means that we can go to the slider distortion. Okay, we can go to the slider distortion, and then we just need to change now, not the panning, right? But we need to change this one. Do you remember distortion curve? We can type it in here. We can say distortion curve, right? And then we can go to this. Now, my concern with this technique would be that maybe the computer do not have enough time for populating that amount of numbers on each movement of the slider. But this is not glass. The worst thing that could happen is that my browser gets stuck and then I just reopen my browser, right? So don't fix things that are not broken. Let's give it a try. We'll refresh. And then it works, okay? But by the way, be careful because it works, but my slider gets stuck, which means that it was calculating very, very slow. So one thing that we can do, which is not elegant, would be change this to the other technique where there was on input, or what was that you cannot do evaluating all the time, okay? Or we can do other things like maybe range. By the way, the range was too big. I think 800. Where is our distortion? 400 is actually too much. So I'm gonna go from 0 to from 0 to 50. Let's say that. Okay. Is that okay? And then we refresh. Oh, and by the way, the distortion should start on value 0. That means that, sorry for jumping too much, the distortion should start with 0, okay? And then let's decrease the resolution just to see if that allows us to hear something. It's working, okay? That would be one technique, okay? Another technique would be to actually do what we were saying in here, which is our signal go to a pure and it goes to a distortion, okay? And they go to a mixer, like the crossfade that we were saying. We add them together, right? But we create a volume. When these go up, these ones go down. And then these go to the general volume. And then these one go to the panning. And then these ones go to the speaker, right? So can you see your signal can go to two directions at the same time? You can connect this one here. This is a distortion. And this is just a straightforward, okay? Which means that we need to add signals. Can we add signals? Maybe yes. And I'm pretty sure that you can do it. So if we go to Web Audio API and we search for add signals, okay, let's say mix Web Audio API mixer, Web Audio API mixing two audio buffers. Let's see, Web Audio API mixing processing, Web Audio API add signals. Can we check it? Maybe not. So let's go back here and let's check if we have around here something for adding in the same way that we have delay, dynamic, gain, panner, stereo, convolve, channel splitter, oh la la, channel merge node. As you can see here, we have a way. The channel merge node, often used in conjunction with the opposite channel splitter node, reunits different mono inputs into a single output. Its input is used to fill a channel of arrays. These are for channels. Actually, this is for making two mono signals to become a stereo signal, okay? But we should have audio node. And then you can see that you can have two signals. By the way, well, no, this, no. A splitter, what does a splitter do? It does the opposite, okay? You can split connections. Oh, but we have merge, okay? Oh, it is here, create channel merge, right? Create channel merge. You can connect them. So that's one way for doing that, okay? And then that's it. Questions?
Yes, teacher. Can you show me
Yes. I think you're speaking.
Yeah, I managed to create the distortion, but my slider doesn't go back to zero distortion. So it keeps the distortion all the way, and I can't change it. So I don't know where.
You cannot change it because get stuck, your browser get stuck?
Yes.
Okay, if your browser gets stuck, that could be that this computer is fast enough for processing what we were writing to process, but your browser is not. It could be one option, okay?
Okay.
Can you just move it slightly? Well, let's do one thing. Could you remember that, do you remember that there is one way that the slider happens only when you remove it and it was not input? Do you remember what do we need to put here?
Not really.
Anybody remembers that we had an issue? First, it was an issue. In this case, it would be a benefit that the thing happens only when you remove the finger from the click in the slider.
It was change.
It was change. Okay. If it change like this, change. Yes. Can you see me? I think you cannot see me.
No.
No, we can't.
What happened here? Sorry. Okay, that's it. I don't know what could happen. Okay. So, okay, it's changed, right? And then could you give it a try with that? Because in that case, you are not gonna be evaluating this curve all the time, but just when you finish moving the slider. Okay?
Okay.
So could you guys turn on your screens? Because I want to see your face. I miss you. Okay, guys. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So what's 20? There are just 19 guys here. There should be a little bit more. But do you understand the questions? Do you, let me also, how can I make me bigger? Let me see, I'm also learning to teach by email, not teaching by internet. And I think I can just go and then, yes, hello, okay. So, I hope that this class, today class, as you can see, we were really slow and we were just reviewing the materials that you did for the assignment in a more proper and organized way. This should clarify a lot of the questions that you have. We do not have new topics today. We just were doing exercises and we finally get into a small piece of code that is working. So at this point, is there any other kind of questions that you have?
This code is already uploaded in ajolote.net.
The one that we did with the distortion?
Yeah.
No, only the one that we did without the distortion. After the class, I will upload the distortion.
Okay, thanks.
Now, what we are gonna do next class, okay, it's now creating effects on real time with a microphone, okay? Which is pretty good because you can do like a small sound processing editor on a web. So you can go to a concert and you just, well, it could be an option. You don't carry your stuff. You just use the computer that is there and you can do things like that. You can, which is pretty interesting, right? Another topics that are missing, what we are not covered yet because we have to work on this web audio API a little bit more. You can connect the web audio API to other kind of APIs from Spotify, from all the companies of audio. We will also work on the APIs of all those companies, right? So you can create an application that connects to the music of a Spotify and then applies effects to the Spotify, for example. Or you can create applications that are working with the APIs of that. Specifically, we will work with the Spotify API. And later, we will connect to the Spotify and then with the web audio API, and then you will start to work on your projects, okay? That part of the semester will be very nice because then you will have to define a project with any of many of the techniques that we learn, and then you will create something. Whatever you want. If you are in production, maybe you will build a web page that has audio from your from the bands, and then you will apply effects like the one that we did. If you are in more like in an experimental domain, maybe you will create a web page that creates transformations of sound based on the weather. Maybe you want to create a sonification of the weather, right? It's a web page that you open and then you hear a sound based on the weather, for example. Or you can create a more like a Spotify player and things like that. But we have to go through this little by little. So for next class, guys, what I want you to do is to add something to this web audio API. Again, but now it's more open to your experimentation, okay? First of all, you have to make it look nicer, which is not a web audio API, but it's more like checking how to code the CSS, how to make fonts that are different, how to embed colors that are different, and how can you create a slider and things like that. I want you to go and try. Don't get frustrated if you don't understand it. But if you go to the webaudioapi.com and you see the examples, you could see some nice visualizations. We will go also through the way of analyzing the audio. It's very, very easy to get the audio input and check the values. If your values are in certain range, you can have colors. So we can build a small equalizer, right? And we can work with a small equalizer and so on. But for now, the only thing that I want you to do is implement something on this code. No more effects, because the effects are kind of understandable what you want to do, what you can do. But I want you to make a nicer page, okay? Which means that you have to work on your CSS, okay? And then that you have to frame it nicely, and you can put an image, and this is more like an assignment of pure HTML. And there is a lot of documentation like that, okay? So this week is gonna be easy because I know that you are really busy. I know that you are having a lot of classes. So this week is gonna be easy in that sense. But I feel, unless you tell me anything else, that we are getting into something that is understandable, that everybody should be happy with what is happening in the code sense. Any comments from you guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you for explaining the homework, because I didn't know how to do it, but now I think I understand better everything.
Okay.
Yeah. Also, I didn't know how to do it, so it was a really good class, actually.
Okay. Okay. I love this topic, so I get excited, and because I have a little bit of experience, I start to run thinking that you can run, which is a good also, which sometimes is good, but sometimes we have to go slow, okay? I think that today was a good phase. Any case, if you have questions, let me know. Last week, I had like 3 or 4 tutorial meetings with some of you guys, and then we have a personal explanation, and that could help also. So if you have any questions, just send me a message, an email, or a WhatsApp, and tell me, can we have an appointment? And we can have an appointment, and then I think that could also work if you get stuck. And for this week, I just want you to enjoy what you have in the code and adding a little bit of branding, okay, to the web page. And I will open the Blackboard space so you can upload it. This class will be also uploaded as the previous ones, okay? Is that okay?
Thank you, teacher.
Okay.
Thank you, teacher.
Thanks, teacher.
Okay.
Thank you, teacher.
Have a nice week.
You too.
Bye, teacher. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you, teacher.
Thank you, teacher.
Yeah, see you.
Thank you, teacher. See ya.
Chapito.